Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Welcome back for another episode. This is Frank Agan, founder and president of AmSpirit Business Connections. Thank you for those who've tuned in and those who've been tuned in the past. We can't have a podcast without an audience. Well, I guess you can, but that would be akin to singing in the shower, which I don't do, by the way, so just if you need to know that. Anyhow, thank you for those who are listening and those who have subscribed. This is, after all, a first step to building a loyal base of followers. When you subscribe, you ensure that you'll get every episode we release. And thank you to those who have referred others to the podcast. Yes, I have a network to tap into, and I am. I have a wife and kids whom I've strong-armed into subscribing. And I have friends that I can ask to become subscribers. But now that both of them have, I need the likes of you to share the word about Networking RX with others. Finally, thanks to those of you who've reached out with questions and comments. Those are very, very helpful. When you plan and execute on a podcast, you generally do it with your own frame of reference as well as that of a few others. When you do that, you tend to make assumptions about show topics, and those assumptions are not necessarily correct. So the questions and comments are helpful. This episode is a perfect example. You see, in episode 1, I briefly touched on the notion of know, like, and trust, and I pledged to refer back to it again and again, and I have, and I will. But in thinking about what to talk on, I never planned to take any deeper dive into what is know, like, and trust. I thought about it, I did, but I concluded that it might be too basic for the audience. However, as the case is from time to time, I appear to be wrong or somewhat inaccurate. I got a note from a listener who suggested that I explore what those words really mean from a networking perspective. So that's the genesis of this episode, and I'm appreciative of that suggestion, and I hope by the end of this you are too. So here we go, know, like, and trust. As you know by now, some people are really good at networking, far better than average. Let's call them master networkers. At any rate, these master networkers seem to effortlessly establish, develop, and maintain a frame of individuals comprised of family members, friends, coworkers, business colleagues, and even competitors. From this interpersonal core, these masters are effectively able to both provide and obtain opportunities, information, support for what they're working on. They derive encouragement and energy to keep them going, and probably most important, their network provides them additional contacts. This generally results in new and exciting career opportunities, great clients, interesting friends, and colleagues at every turn. In short, their networks are highly productive and efficient. Meanwhile, others seem to be mere novices at networking. And I think we've all felt like this from time to time. I know I have. That is, we know people. In fact, we're acquainted with many of the same individuals that the master networkers interact with. Despite this, there seems to be little, if any, flow of opportunities, information, support, energy, or additional contacts coming from that network. Yes, on occasion, a novice's network is able to provide them with opportunities, information, and support, and on occasion, they're able to do the same in return. However, even when these occasions occur, they seem to be more like mere coincidences rather than the result of a plan or design. So generally, a novice's network bears little fruit, and when it does, it requires lots of effort. So this all begs the question, why is there a difference between master and novices? The masters are not necessarily harder working than novices. Usually the opposite is true. Masters use their networks to work smarter, not harder. Masters are not necessarily any more educated than novices. High school dropouts can be great networkers, while PhDs might not be. For example, the late R. David Thomas, founder of Wendy's International, the hamburger chain, the third largest hamburger chain, dropped out of high school. He obtained his GED when he was in his 70s, But he didn't allow his lack of education stop him from creating and tapping into a network of supporters and investors to help him launch his hamburger empire back in 1969. Contrast that with, well, any number of people we know, who are highly educated, highly intelligent, and can't seem to get out of their own way when it comes to establishing or benefiting from a network. So networking prowess has nothing to do with intellectual prowess, right? Likewise, it has nothing to do with social status, appearance, or luck. The difference is the manner and approach in which masters interact with their network. Masters know that they need to be more than simply acquainted with their network. Masters strive to develop a mutual knowing, liking, and trusting of one another. While they may not recite those words verbatim or even think about them in that context, masters are aware, at least some level of consciousness, that these three elements are the key to forging a powerful and productive relationship. If you were to ask masters about these elements, all the terminology might vary. This would be their message as it relates to know, like, and trust. The first element is know. A relationship can be neither powerful nor productive until at a bare minimum you know someone and they know you. As this element is defined as being acquainted or familiar with someone, a master would tell you that the mere introduction does not constitute knowing. For example, I was at an event a few years back when someone approached and immediately began to pitch me on their services. I politely let them finish, at which point they were expecting a buying decision, and by that I mean they wanted me to say yes. At this point I gave a nervous chuckle and remarked, "I don't even know you." To that the person said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I am," and they stated their name as if that would fix the deficiency and clear the way for me to buy. Yes, this is an extreme example, but it happened, and it might have happened to you as well. In thinking about it, hopefully it was the same person you encountered, which would mean that there are less of these sorts in the world, right? At any rate, a mere introduction does not constitute knowing. A master will tell you that at a bare minimum, knowing is being able to recognize one another either by sight or over the phone. In addition, a master will tell you that knowing is being comfortable or familiar enough to be able to converse with one another, even if it's only about the weather or sports. Finally, knowing is being generally informed about one another. In my opinion, this is probably the most important aspect of knowing. I think back to the early days when I was an attorney in private practice. One day I had lunch with an insurance agent who was in my chapter of what is now AmSpirit Business Connections. As with most of these lunches, there was very little business discussed. In fact, it's usually 95% getting acquainted and getting caught up. At any rate, I remember how I felt as he shared about how he had left his promising corporate career and put everything on the line to be an agent with American Family Insurance just so he could avoid being out of town 3 weeks a month and enable him to spend more time with his wife and his 2 young daughters. At that moment, knowing what I knew, I couldn't help but be in his corner. Plus, because I took the time to get to know him, he was appreciative of me being interested. And that was even before he really knew my story and before I had done anything for him. All of a sudden I could feel he was in my corner too. Getting to know someone and allowing them to get to know you is powerful. It's a powerful thing. And as I talk, I can see the need for future episodes where we continue to dig into knowing. But for now, we'll leave that as it is. Let's move on to the second element, like. True networking is about individuals working together for their mutual benefit. As human nature would have it, we're not drawn to benefit people we dislike, and we certainly don't go out of our way for people we're indifferent to. We reserve the benefits of helping other people to those that we're fond of. To create this element, a master networker will tell you that one must genuinely and truly care about the individuals with whom they network. That is, you must have a feeling that you have a stake in the well-being of those around you. This means being committed to and excited by the successes of those with whom you know and network with. Analogous to taking interest in success, you must also share in the pain of failure of those around you. and in return you should expect and receive that same devotion. But here's the secret to getting people to like you, and most any networker will concur. The secret to getting people to like you is liking them first. Because if you like someone, truly like someone, and that comes through in how you conduct yourselves around them, they'll have a very, very hard time doing anything but liking you in return. Now, when it comes to liking others, which again is the key, as I shared in my book, Foundational Networking, when it comes to liking others and have that feeling of caring, you always have a choice. You can choose to like someone, or you can choose not to. That is, everyone has something about them, if you let it, that can rub you the wrong way and bring up those feelings of angst. But everyone also has something about them that will make you smile and give you a feeling of affinity towards them. You can choose what it is about them that you focus on. For example, I live and work in Columbus, Ohio, the home of the Ohio State University and Buckeye Nation. When I speak to groups and work with organizations, I freely share with them that I grew up in Michigan and am a fan of the Michigan Wolverines, OSU's hated rival. I use that as an example. I tell them that if they're looking for a reason to dislike me, they don't need to look any further than that. But then I go on to share that if they look beyond that, beyond the team that I like, the team that they don't like, they'll no doubt find lots to like about me. And with that, we can have a fruitful relationship. So if you want to build like in your network, find a way to like others first. I'm not saying this is easy in every case. Trust me, it's not. But it's that simple. Moving to the final element, trust. The foundation upon which a powerful and productive network exists is trust. Most master networkers will tell you that it's the most important element. You can know someone and not like them, right? Sometimes the very reason we don't like someone is because we know something about them that we don't like and simply can't get beyond it. Believe me, it happens. And you can know someone and like someone and not trust them. There are people who you know and they're wonderful human beings, but for one reason or another, you can't trust them. So trust is vital. But trust is also one of those things that it's hard to define. You know it when it's there, and you know it when it's not. However, a great or master networker once shared with me that they view trust of others as having a firm confidence in their virtue and abilities. I thought that was extremely insightful once I thought about it. What they were suggesting that there are really two parts to trust, and that they're both important. The first part is honesty of character, and they needed to know that the person will do the things that they've pledged to do. And the second aspect of it is reliability of product or service, and that is not only will they do the things they said they'll do, but they'll do them well. As such, to create and maintain trust, you must continually reinforce your network's faith in your honesty and your reliability. Think about it. You reach out to a financial advisor to invest a sizable inheritance that you just received. As you hand over your money, you need to have faith and confidence that the person won't flee to the Caymans with your nest egg. And you must also have faith and confidence that while they won't flee, that they know what they're going to do when it comes time to make the investment grow. So honesty and reliability. You need to establish both to have trust. Again, I see this morphing into future programs as there are other things to explore relative to trust. That's enough for today. We're all busy and have things to do. Before we conclude, however, remember, we're looking to grow the AmSpirit Business Connections team. Yes, we're looking to add franchisees to our system. What does this entail? AmSpirit Business Connections franchisees help entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals in their community to connect, exchange quality referrals, and become more successful. How do they do this? Through a structured weekly morning meeting. Because these meetings are in the morning, generally wrapping up by 9 a.m., this allows successful business types or professionals to add this franchise opportunity onto what they're already doing. At this point, all of our franchisees do something else. For a couple hours in the morning, a few days a week, our franchisees work the AmSpirit Business Connection model. The rest of the time, they're entrepreneurs, professionals such as attorneys, accountants, realtors, coaches, and consultants of various kinds. Here's the big plus. Not only do our franchisees realize a financial gain from operating AmSpirit Business Connections, but the business networks that they build and the relationships they develop become a great source of referrals for their primary business as well. So if you or someone you know would like to learn more about the AmSpirit Business Connections franchise opportunity, please contact me using the email provided at the end of this program.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.